Well, welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Runnin With The Devils, and our New Jersey Devils remain locked in the number 10 spot for this year's NHL entry draft. The balls did not drop our way in the little machine this time around, and we did not move up or down in the draft. We are locked in at the number 10 selection, and folks, I am here to tell you, I have never been, as a Devils fan, in my Devils fandom of 30 years, I have never been less interested in using a draft pick, especially one of this height, high up in the draft. I am so disinterested in using this pick, and I am dead set on the idea of using this pick as ammo in a trade to bring us some win-now pieces. I am going to get one of my longtime, very good friends and huge Devils fan, Steve the Maniac. Very busy guy. I've tried to get Steve the Maniac on the program, live and in the flesh in the studio. It's been very hard to get Steve the Maniac on, so let's see if I can get him on the phone now. And maybe one day Steve the Maniac will make an appearance in a video, but for now, I'm getting Steve the Maniac on the phone. Steve the Maniac, are you there?
I am here, yeah.
Steve the Maniac in the building via the telephone, folks. And Steve, I'm here just making a video here, talking to the people. We stay locked in at number 10. I've put my thoughts out there previously in videos that I've never been more disinterested in using a draft pick that we have, especially one this high in the draft. And I'm looking for win-now pieces. What does Steve the Maniac have to say about all of this?
Well, obviously, I'm happy they didn't get bumped back a spot or anything like that. It didn't lose any value. I think with where they're at right now, I think the thing that you're looking at is if you're Fitzgerald, you have to look into trading the pick. I don't think. Look, anything can happen. You're planning on everything. But I think the number one priority has to be taking that pick and turning it into an asset, into a piece that can help this team right now. Because drafting any player at that spot, you're looking at bringing in a player that's not going to help this team for 3-5 years.
Tell him, Steve. You tell him. The future is bright. The future is bright no more. The future is now. The perpetual rebuild ends today. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, you're looking at bringing in a piece if you draft that won't help this team for another 5 years. And where is Nico at that point? And where is Brad at that point? Where is Timo at that point? Where are these players at that? It doesn't make sense.
I would say these players are on the decline, Steve the Maniac. What would you say about that? I mean, are reaching the decline.
That's absolutely, I think the same thing. That's absolutely the case. So if you're looking at the landscape, if you're looking at what's available, you're taking that 10th overall pick and you're matching, you're seeing what makes the most sense to bring, what kind of piece to bring in and help this team take a step forward for the now and the future. And that's the thing about having the 10th overall pick is that's a high pick. And it's the kind of asset that you can bring in something that doesn't just help this team for now, but it helps this team going forward anyway. It helps this team going for the next 5-8 years anyway, maybe longer. And so to me, that's what makes the most sense. I think you have to do it. I think anything else, honestly, not going to be that happy about it if they draft with that pick.
If we indeed draft with the pick, I will be livid. We had talked earlier today, and we both agreed that if we did win the lottery and moved up to number 1 overall, we would still trade the pick, but we thought that if that did happen, Fitzgerald would just be so head over heels in love with the idea of grabbing Celebrini at number 1 that probably no matter what, he wouldn't trade the pick. But in terms of pieces, what would you be looking to ideally turn that 10th round pick maybe with some other things into, who would be some guys on your list that you think we should start shopping this thing to?
Well, obviously, everybody's going to point to the goaltender.
Whoa, wait a minute. Let's go in order of operations here, Steve the Maniac. Could we talk about pipe dreams first before we get to the goalie? Let's just talk about the whale.
Well, wait, what did you say?
We got to talk about the whale. Before we get to the goalie, let's talk about the ultimate dream.
I know, obviously, the thing that you're into that, obviously, is Bradytkachuk.
Listen, just to clarify, folks, we're not saying that this is a rumor, so people stop writing, you're spreading rumors. No. We are vocalizing hopes and dreams that are rooted in reality. And we'll get into that in a separate video, but all of the linkages and reasons and sensibilities are there for both sides for this deal to be consummated. But go ahead, Steve the Maniac. What do you got on my man Bradytkachuk?
All right, here's the thing about Bradytkachuk. Here's what I'll say about him. This team is uniquely positioned right now to bring in a player like Bradytkachuk. And I know Senators fans, and I know a lot of Devils fans even are going to say, what does that cost? That's ridiculous. He's untouchable. Senators aren't trading him. He's not McDavid.
Wayne Gretzky was traded. I like to remind the audience. I've said this.
This is the thing.
Wayne Gretzky was traded in his prime. If Wayne-O can get traded, Bradytkachuk can get traded. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Every player has a price. Every player seems untouchable until a team with the pieces comes to that team and says,
"Come knocking."
I get that you don't want to trade this guy, but what about for these pieces? What about for these pieces? What about for the 10th overall pick? What about for a player like Dawson Mercer? What about for a prospect like Seamus Casey? These are prime pieces. These are top pieces. You're talking about a top 10 pick. You're talking about a 22-year-old in Dawson Mercer that can be a core piece for that team, for the Senators going forward.
Tell him, Steve. Tell him.
You're talking about a top prospect in a kid like Seamus Casey.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, what does that do to this team, losing those pieces? What does that do to our future if you're bringing in a piece like Bradytkachuk? It doesn't hurt this team at all. It doesn't hurt this team going forward. It helps this team for the now, and it helps this team for the future. And it's the kind of trade that if you're the Senators, if you're Staios with the Senators, I think you have to listen. I think you have to listen even when a team right away says, we'll give you the 10th. We'll give you a top 10 pick, and we'll add from there. I think every player at that point, you have to say, look, there's a price. If this makes sense for us for the now, and this makes us a better team going forward, this makes us a more complete team going forward, why wouldn't you listen? Why wouldn't Staios listen? At least listen to what Fitzgerald has to offer. And I think the Devils are uniquely positioned to offer those kind of pieces, to offer the kind of pieces where you'd have to listen.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think like you said, the top 10 pick the 10th overall pick does nothing for me. I've never been more disinterested in using a pick outside of using it as ammo to trade to another team. With that being said, that pick plus, let's just in this hypothetical world say a guy like Mercer and a guy like Casey, those three pieces help the Senators way more than they would help us, and Bradytkachuk at that point would help us more than those pieces would as well. I mean, the reality is Casey can't play here anytime. I mean, at least for this year at a minimum, and honestly, I'd be scared probably even beyond that for in all reality with the kids we have back there.
This is the thing. Like, how long do you rebuild the defense? How long do you keep running on the
treadmill? How long do we rebuild the whole damn team for? I mean,
of course, that's even a bigger conversation. The endless rebuild. We've talked about this. The endless rebuild. The rebuild that just where you feel like you're not gaining ground. You're just running on the treadmill.
We have won 6 playoff games post Marty Brodeur. Just let that sink in. In 12 years, 6 playoff games, which consisted of 1 series win, and then a single win in an opening round, and then a single win in the second round, obviously, against Carolina. 6 playoff game wins in 12 years. Disgusting. I'm disgusted.
If you're watching, it's awful. And if you're watching the playoffs, if you're a fan that's been watching the playoffs, you have to realize, like, yeah, Brady brings the talent too. Talent isn't the thing it's not the only thing that will get you there. If you're watching the playoffs, you realize that. Take a look at Toronto. Take a look at the Maple Leafs. They're a shining example of that.
Oh, man.
You need other dynamics. If you're going to go the distance, you need other dynamics that this team is lacking.
Well, wait, to cut you off real quick, the sad part is, I think Toronto, aside from their core 4 and the flashy, shiny toys, I think they have some of those. They have definitely a more not obviously the best, but compared to the Devils, they had more of those depth pieces and slightly gritty players here and there than the Devils did. And we saw how they ended up for the past however many years now. And the Devils have none.
Then the thing is, that's why at least they're in the dance and we're not. The Devils aren't. But even being in the dance, even getting there, they're out in the first round again. They're a team that's out in the first round again. And what are they doing? What is the discussion now in Toronto? It's trading guys like Marner, guys that are skilled guys that put up the points. Maybe you don't bring other things. Maybe you don't bring other dynamics that they're lacking, that will help them go, that will make them go far in the playoffs, that will take them all the way. And that's when you look at this team. If the Devils don't start bringing in those pieces that bring those dynamics, toughness, grit, leadership, then you're destined. We're going to be destined for the same sort of fate as Toronto anyway. A team that keeps getting there and maybe can't get over the hump.
I think you just described Brady-Tkachuk with all those.
You think I did?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. That was just like the lead-in for the poster of Brady-Tkachuk, I think.
That's exactly what he brings. That's the kind of player that you're acquiring. That's at least the kind of player that they should be targeting. Or kind of players, plural, that they should be targeting.
Well, listen, it's cute to say kind of players, right? But, like, if we're being honest, outside of his brother, is there anything even remotely like the Tkachuks in the league today that could perform at that high level and bring all the snarl and set an NHL record with 16 hits against the Devils in a single game? And all these things. Is there anyone even remotely close to that?
Not at his level.
I don't think so.
There are players that bring it, but not to his level. I mean, you look at guys like even, Marchand, obviously, with Boston. But, older guy, I mean, not to the level of the Tkachuks.
The Tkachuks
not to the level that they could do it.
Are genetic freaks born from Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk, NHL legend. Probably should be in the Hall of Fame. He's been amongst the guys that have been kind of screwed by the committee, but hopefully Keith Tkachuk gets in. But, I mean, wow. I mean, yeah, I understand they're not shopping him, but how do you not force their hand with just a crazy offer, right? I mean, like you said, we are uniquely positioned to offer them a better package than anyone else could, and it would to me, it would almost be malpractice by Staios to not take it.
And where does it hurt this team's future at? Like, that's the thing I come back to. It's like, even trading pieces like Mercer, trading pieces.
Listen, I'll be honest. I'm not obviously keen on the idea of losing Mercer, right? But I've already said, the pick means nothing to me. And Casey, I just don't see him fitting in anywhere in the short-term plans of the team, being that we are kind of packed with offensive-minded defensemen and undersized one at that. And so I was excited about his future. I do think he is going to be a great player in the league. But unfortunately, it doesn't have to be in a Devils jersey. And, if we're the only real roster piece we're losing is Mercer, again, I'm not thrilled about it. But if the trade-off is you're losing Mercer but bringing in Brady-Tkachuk, there's nothing to talk about at that point. I mean,
there isn't. And the thing about Casey is that, like, even when you have to look at this team's defense, right? You have to look at the entire roster and not be thinking, like, making steps over the next 5 years. Like, in other words, still building this team for 4 or 5 years from now.
No, I'm out on that plan.
You can have the bright future while having the bright present.
There needs to be a bright present.
And the more guys you bring in, the more kids you bring in, like Casey on the back end, while guys like Luke and Nemitz are still learning, how are you taking a step forward in the meantime? How are you? Sure, you're going forward for 5, 6, 7 years from now. But again, we go back to the conversation of where's Nico at that point?
No. These guys will be aging and I'll be in a casket. I'm trying to at least see one more cup before I kick the bucket. You know what I mean,
Even
Steve?
kids like Luke and Nemitz, these kids, I'm not saying they won't contribute in the meantime, but being like playoff warriors, being seasoned players, being kids that have grown into, being guys that have the strength to compete in the playoffs and game in and game out, you're looking years from now from that. Like Nemitz was 19 years old? Mm-hmm. Luke was 20 this year. These kids are years away. They're still years away from being those kind of pieces, those kind of players. The sky's the limit for both of them, but they're years away from being that. You throw Casey into the mix, you're looking at a defense that is essentially in a rebuild. You're essentially rebuilding the defense. And how long does that take before these are guys that you can depend on? I mean, what do they say when it comes to the defensemen? You don't really know what you have until they played 300 games.
And it's crazy that as of right now, Ball, I don't think is anywhere even near there yet. And then you got Hughes, Nemitz. Let's see. I'm just curious now that you threw that out there. Yeah, and literally, I would have thought he had slightly more. John Marino has 328.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's barely just hit that mark.
Yeah, we always talk, too. He could be a guy that possibly could get upgraded and potentially have value on the right team. If we could, it's and Siegenthaler are 312. 312 games played. All right, so you're on board. Call Staios. Try to force his hand. If he gives a firm no, like absolutely not, you're wasting your time, and then you call him 3 more times after he says that, and then he's still a firm no, then okay, then I start opening it up a little bit to, okay, so what other possibilities are? And if we can't pry Brady away, then where's your brain going? To the net?
Obviously, you're going to goaltender then, yeah. I mean, look, that's a need anyway.
No, for sure.
We could walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, you could do multiple things. It's a long off season. Like, multiple things can happen. And you don't have to get just, completely zoned in on one goalie or 2 targets. Like, this goaltending was bad. We have bad goaltending.
Are you so scarred by it that you're not willing to take the chance on somebody who hasn't been like a proven, 50-game guy? Or are you willing to go the route of, like we talked about again offline earlier, of like a Corey Schneider where like, oh, this guy probably is really good, is capable of being a starter. He just was in the wrong situation, so we haven't seen it yet? Or are you skittish of a situation like that?
So if the Brady pipe dream doesn't happen, then obviously yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the 10th overall pick and I'm saying, what goaltender matches that value, and who's available? What goaltender is available that I can just maybe even trade that pick straight up to bring in a goaltender? And obviously then the one you go to is, I think, where Markstrom's at, I wouldn't trade the 10th overall for him anyway.
No, dude, he wants out. And he wants out of there.
May have sailed anyway. I mean, Markstrom at this point, I think, is somebody that you circle back to if you're the Devils.
Backup plan?
If you miss on guys like Saros. And that's where, that's what the 10th for me leads me to think, is that, do you trade the 10th overall pick straight up for Saros? And you have history where, you say, well, we have done that before, where you traded the 8th overall pick straight up for Schneider, who at the time was considered a top NHL goaltender. I mean, he wasn't, he was a kid that hadn't necessarily proved it, a young player that hadn't necessarily proved it yet, but he was still looked at as a guy that was just stuck behind Luongo, but was still considered, a top, I would say, 8 to 10 goaltender at the time.
I'll still never forgive him because he ultimately chased Marty out, and that's why we have to live with photos of Marty in a St. Louis Blues jersey for the rest of our lives.
And you're talking about Schneider, who at the time was, 26 years old?
He wasn't that old before he just fell apart and broke down.
So he's a younger top-end goaltender who you traded the 8th overall pick for. I mean,
you think they take the 10th? You think they take the 10th overall straight up for Saros? I feel like
it depends on who else is in on that.
I feel like someone has to be able to outbid us on that.
And we can't be the only one in on Saros. I'm sure we won't be. I'm sure there will be other teams.
And you're basically, like we said, you're basically then, trading to get him, but soon thereafter you're gonna have to pay the piper when he wants $8-9 million. Which,
but even with that, I mean, you're looking at, what other big money do we have? Big money locked up in the net? No. You look at our young pieces up front. I mean, a lot of those guys. Take a look at the big pieces in Toronto and what they're making compared to what our guys are making.
That's why Mitchie is going to be going bye-bye. Mitch Marner, and a lot of people think he hurt his value in this playoffs as well.
Oh, he did. He definitely did.
He would fit. He would fit in beautifully with this Devils team.
Oh yeah, he'd fit perfectly here.
Mitch Marner, baby. Yeah, not to knock Marner, but similar type of situation with him. Allergic to the physicality and all that fun stuff.
There are contracts on this team too that you look at and you say, like, I'm not saying immediately, but within the next year or two, can you do something with the Palat contract that helps make room, long term for a contract like Saros?
Yeah, if you have to retain 50% on Palat, I think it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, even at 50%. And like you said earlier,
or even if you're retaining just a couple million, like I think there are teams out there. There are teams that are young teams, or teams that, are in a rebuild already, that will look at a guy like Palat and if you can make it work, we'll say a guy like Palat, can help us take a step forward, can be a good influence on our young players. He's got value, especially now with the ability to retain part of his contract. It shouldn't be that much of a problem.
What if Nashville's like, give me the 10th and something else? I feel like I don't want to get too crazy. Let's just say hypothetically, because I from everything Fitzgerald has said, it seemed like Trotz was completely just looking to take him to the woodshed when he inquired about Saros, and he'd fall back on that line of, well, he's not available, or, we weren't looking to trade him, so you got to make it worth my while. Let's just say they come back and say the 10th overall in Casey. Are you pulling that trigger?
The 10th overall in Casey?
Yeah.
I mean, you know me, man. Like,
You're doing
this
it?
This team is ready.
You're doing it?
Man,
that seems a little steep. And paying the money? And paying the money?
What are we building toward? What are you building?
No, I get it. Listen, I'm all about getting a goalie too. I'm just curious, how much more expensive is that than other goalies? But, I understand. You're just like fed up the way I am. And it's just like, fuck it. Just take whatever these future assets are and get me in win now mode. And I guess, yeah.
I look at pieces. I've always said this to you. Like, I look at a trade and I go, I'm not worried about what players go on to be with other teams.
No, I don't get the FOMO either. I don't.
Yeah. As long as the pieces I'm bringing in, I know that they're going to help take us where we want to go. I'm not focused on what they end up being with other teams. What are the pieces we're bringing in? Where are they going to take us? And the pieces that exit, where have they left us as a team? The pieces I'm giving away, not what they're going to end up being, but where have they left us? That's all I focus on. And I go back to the fact that you look at this team and look, they're missing plenty of intangibles and things that they need to go far in the playoffs. But it's like I always tell you, like, it's about getting there. You need to get there. You still need to get to the playoffs. And with a goaltender, with Saros, this team was a playoff team. I firmly believe that. With Saros, this team was getting there.
This season?
This season.
Oh, no, I think with even despite the meltdown under Green, where we blew like that 2-goal lead in Buffalo, and then we blew, I think, a late lead against Pitt. We blew like 4 or 5 leads in a row. It was like Pittsburgh, then that Ranger Brawl game at the Garden, and then I think there was maybe Ottawa after that. But yeah, they kind of just completely fell apart. But I totally agree. Had we gotten a goalie at any point, even honestly early February, the way the teams, especially in front of us, were playing like shit down the stretch, we were right there, and it was for the taking. And if you just look even back, in those February, March months, there was definitely games that were lost on the account of just tragic goaltending, where I do think, yeah, even honestly, Jake Allen or Kakinen at that moment may have got us the games won. Never mind like an A+ guy like Saros.
Yeah, I mean, look, teams have a different, depending on where they're at, teams have a different perspective on what is success and failure for their season, how their season went, what they consider success and what they consider failure, and where the Devils are at right now. A+ is winning the cup.
Mm-hmm.
A B- is making the playoffs. C+ in that range is making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Missing it is failure. They failed. That's it. It's failure. And this
missing the playoffs. Like, the playoffs is an F for sure.
It's total failure.
F.
And this thinking where it's like, well, we weren't going to go far anyway.
No.
It's like saying, well, then give me the F if I can't get the A+.
No, I don't agree with the defeatist mentality either. Like, anything could happen. Obviously, after watching the playoffs, it was like, holy shit. Like, if we did squeak in, it was going to be ugly. But I still rather the guys get that experience and make the playoffs versus watching it on television and our season being over on April 16th.
Absolutely. And that's what I go back to with Saros, with bringing in a guy like Saros, is I do believe this team was making the playoffs with Saros. And I'm someone that completely believes this team needs a lot of things still. It needs a lot of things to go all the way, to go far. It needed a goalie to get in there. I mean, take a look at what happened at the end of the season. Take a look at teams like the Capitals, like even the Islanders. You're telling me with a goaltender we couldn't catch these teams? You're telling me with a guy like Saros we couldn't catch these teams?
I think the Capitals were maybe the one team in the playoffs that I think if we played them in a playoff series this year, we would have beat them. They looked so bad.
For sure.
Against the Rangers, they looked so bad. They looked like a team that didn't belong making the playoffs. That's what it looked like, and it was tragic. Ovechkin was invisible.
I mean, beyond Saros, then you go to other guys and think, a guy like Allmark, Linus Allmark. Is he worth the 10th overall? Am I trading the 10th overall pick for him? I think that's hefty, to be honest.
I mean, at this point, it's Boston started off looking like they were going to try to roll with the tandem garbage, and then Allmark lost the one game, and then Swayman played lights out for the rest of that series, and he's looking pretty sharp. Probably. I mean, obviously, this is way too early, but he seems like to me he would be like an early Conn Smythe kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think that Allmark is the guy that they're moving on.
100%.
Yeah.
He's 30.
He's 30
yeah, I mean, is that someone who would have... I mean, people are going to be in on him, too. People are certainly going to be in on him. I think the Sharks are going to be circling on a lot of guys, and it's just... The only thing with him I'm a little skittish about is, he was in Buffalo, 2.69, 2.63, 3.11 the year before. It's like, yeah, those couple years he had in Boston, like... How much of that is a function of Boston, like, being a juggernaut for the past few years?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean...
Dude, in 22-23, dude, he had 40 wins, 1.89 and 938. Oh, my God. Those are insane numbers. This year he came back down to earth a little bit. 257 goals against and 915 save percentage, which is still very good, obviously, but he's playing on the Bruins.
But that sort of dip is the thing where, I look at it and say... Are you trading a 10th overall pick for him? Like, they've got to get it right. That's the thing. Like, where the Devils are at right now, they've got to get it right in net. They don't have another year of, wasting Jack Hughes, wasting Nico, wasting years of these players' careers.
Well, Fitzgerald manages it's he's here for an eternity, and the players play 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Saros this year with 286 and 906.
The thing with him is that where Nashville is at, like, I think pretty much everyone didn't think that they were going to make the playoffs. I don't think anyone really had Nashville as a playoff team. I think people looked at Nashville as a team that, they're essentially in a rebuild. They're essentially a team that, or at least a retool, where they're not looked at as a team that's going to make the playoffs. You bring Saros to a guy and that's a whole other discussion. Is like, you look at the Devils and go, do they need elite goaltending? We had bad goaltending. Like the Devils had awful goaltending. Do you need elite goaltending, or is that 2.7 goals against, 2.75 goals against enough to make this team a really competitive team? And then bring in other pieces to help fill the gaps.
I do think with Dougie back. And hopefully a veteran defenseman or two, preferably of the nasty variety, that, league average goaltending could get us far. But obviously having an elite goaltender is a beautiful luxury to have. And so, yeah, I'm kind of torn on the Saros thing. I think if I made it all out multiple pitches and tried to get Brady and they weren't budging, then I probably looked at, what else? There's no other sensible pieces to think about, trading it for. Probably outside of Saros. I mean, and maybe you could make the case for Allmark, but yeah, I think that could be high. But who knows? Yeah, everything's crazy, man. Like the way these things go down, it's like, yeah, who else might be looking for goalies in the summer? Like, who knows? And so all it takes is a few extra teams to come in, and now the price is driven up.
Sure. Yeah, bidding war. Then a bidding war happens, and right away you're priced out of guys. Right away you go, this is. I'm not paying that for that guy. Look, the value still has to. I talk about like where the player you're bringing in, where that player is going to take your team. Focus on that rather than what you're giving up. But I mean, the value still has to make sense. Like the value in a trade still. I'm not. It's got to still be in balance with what you're bringing in, with the piece that you're bringing in. And if you do get into a bidding war on guys right away, that you get turned off to that. It's not a player anymore that makes sense to acquire. But the thing is like everybody's focused on the goaltending, and yes, you need to correct that.
We need one bad.
It has to happen in conjunction.
What do you do if we go into the season and Fitz is like, I tried to go big game hunting, but my bullets missed, and Jake Allen looked phenomenal in camp, so we're gonna go with Jake and Nico Dawes, and we're very confident in that tandem going forward into the season.
Then his leash gets even shorter, man. then he's on the clock.
The scary part is I think there's at least a 15-20% chance that happens.
I think there is, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that's the thing about where, a lot of the pieces that the Devils have. You'd be willing to trade them. But like I just said, like it still has to make sense. Like a 10th overall pick is still something that I'm looking to trade it. Like that's.
I have zero interest. I've never, like I said, I literally have never been less interested in drafting a player. Now, if you tell me that there's no deals to be had, and we looked everywhere, and the goalies are either too high or someone else beat us to it, and there's no way Tkachuk's getting moved, then like okay, there's probably not too many other positions. Then like. Who are you going to be trading for at that point? It doesn't seem like, there's really any other things out there that would make sense. So then you might be backed into a corner of where you do use the pick.
Yeah, and that could happen. And that absolutely could happen. It has to make sense, too. I mean, you're not giving the pick away. You're not just giving the 10th overall pick away. I'm working as hard as I possibly can, if I'm Fitzgerald, to make that has to be the priority. This is a top asset, and we can trade this to bring in something that really helps us for now and the future. That we're not mortgaging the future at all. Take a look at the pieces on this team we're going forward with. No one's talking about trading Luke. No one's talking about trading even Nemitz necessarily. Like these are core pieces. Our future, it's set with the pieces that you have right now on the roster. Add to that, but it does have to make sense. I mean, you're not giving that 10th overall pick away, and so that could happen. He could be stuck in a situation where it didn't make sense. The trade just didn't make sense. And everybody talks about the goaltender, but it has to happen in conjunction with somewhat of a fix on this defense. You can't just look at the goaltending and say that was like the only problem. It was the biggest problem, for sure. This defense was also a problem. And I don't just mean in terms of the sixth defenseman every night. I mean in terms of team defense. We're lost. We were lost. We were lost defensively. And that, you do have to look at that and say, like, if I'm bringing in a goaltender, sure, that's a big step. That takes us a long way. What else can I do, though, on defense to make this team allow a lot less goals than they're letting up?
Well, listen, I'm going to have you back on when I do my shopping spree free agency wish list. We've talked about that kind of in depth. So hopefully Fitz does, bring in at least one or two of those guys. But back to the draft for a second. Is there any way that the Flames don't take Iginla's kid with their pick?
Oh man! I mean, if he's sitting there, I don't think.
It's crazy. So I'm just looking right now that I feel like he shot up the chart on mock drafts as well. I don't know. I haven't looked in a few months. I feel like when I looked a while back, it seemed like he could be a guy that might be on the board around 10. And now it looks like he shot up the board too.
I mean, look, I'm never guys like that. If we did keep the pick,
yeah, I mean that would be a great guy to land on if we got backed into using the pick. I still hope we don't.
He's not, it's not like he's rated. I'm never betting against bloodline with a guy like that.
Oh, I'm a bloodline guy all the way. Like, NHL pedigree, say no more. You need any more proof than the Tkachuk brothers?
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people say like he plays a little bit different than his father. Maybe he's not quite as.
He has Jerome Iginla DNA in his veins.
That's the thing. Like,
he grew up with Jerome Iginla.
He was a leader. That he was clutch. He was competitive. He had a lot of characteristics that this team needs. And if his son brings even some of those, I mean, obviously that's a kid that I would target if with the pick, if they do have the pick at 10.
Do you remember in the Cup Finals, Jerome Iginla and Vincent Lecavalier fighting?
Yes. Yep.
Dude, it was an absolute. I remember. For some reason, I always liked Vinny as a kid as well, but I always love Iginla too, just because he was more of that, hard nosed, don't take shit kind of guy. And I remember watching that, and when the gloves came off, I was like, wow, Cup Final throwdown, and amazing. Vinny Lecavalier is not a guy you really, I don't know that I've ever seen him fight any other time.
I mean, few times. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm actually rolling the fight right now. Iginla kind of pounded him, but he hung in there. I thought he would have got worked worse. Oh, man, Iginla hit him with some shots on the ice, too.
Yeah, I watched that fight like a few months back. I remember watching that again. I think I saw it on X or something. And I think I even sent it to you. And man.
It's when hockey was hockey.
Oh, my God.
Not the shit we're watching now.
Yeah.
I will say, though, the NHL as a whole kind of, won some points back with me. Not that, I love it no matter what. But it is crazy to see how much, even in the first round, the intensity immediately ratcheted up from regular season. And it was like, oh, it's the playoffs now? And, 50, 60 hits in the first period of a game. You're like, whoa. First Toronto-Boston game, I was like, holy shit. I knew this was, going to be intense, but that was a whole different level of intensity that I wasn't expecting whatsoever.
For sure. The thing is, man, like, you dangle, a childhood dream. These players, their dream. You dangle that carrot, you dangle it right in front of them, and it's right there. And they can taste it. They're there. They're in the dance. They're at the dance now. And they can taste it. Yeah, man, it's like, that's what you see. That's what you see from these players. Like, you're not taking this away from me. We
would have been so battered in the playoffs. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been sad. All right, I'm going to let you go in a second. But in closing, you want to trade the pick for win now pieces as well. You're high on the bradytkachuk possibility fumes.
Yes.
And if we strike out after 12 attempts with that, then you're moving to the goalie, preferably Saros.
Yeah, that would be my preference.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad plan. Like I said, it scares me a little bit of how much money he's going to want. But like in reality, what is we saw what budget goaltending gets you, so I'm kind of over it too. What is Ullmark going to want at some point? $5 or $6 million? It's like, all right, so it's a few million more. It sucks. Obviously, we're going to have to make some moves cap-wise to address all these other, glaring holes and, patch up the rest of the team. But there is, I think, money to be saved or kind of moved around, with Palat and Marino and/or Siegenthaler. And
I think it's definitely possible to bring in somebody like Saros and pay him and still put together a competitive team, even with the pieces that we have. Even with the guys that we have, like making what they're making, Jack. But this is why also, look, these contracts, they don't last forever.
No, for sure.
They don't last forever. Guys like Jack, like his contract is not going to last forever. At some point, they're going to be getting even more.
He's going to be getting
it's important.
That Willie Nylander money.
Exactly. And this is why it's important that right now, it's like Fitzgerald wants to keep saying, like, our window's just opening. Okay. All right. But, like, the years tick away real quick.
Oh, I know. Remember the core with Zach Parise and Clarkson and all them. The future was bright. The future was real bright. We missed them. We whiffed in the finals, and that was a wrap for all those boys. And now Zach's looking to chase one with the Avalanche as we speak.
This team hasn't even faced that playoff adversity yet. They made it last year. They got eliminated in the second round, but they haven't even faced that sort of, like what Toronto's going through, which a lot of teams, or even what the Capitals went through for a while.
Oof.
That a lot of teams do have to go through that, and you don't know if this team is going to have to go through that for a while. And while that's happening, those years tick away. The contracts, they're up real quick.
Man. All right, Steve the Maniac. Good talking to you. We will have you back on the program very soon, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for your time, sir. Later.
All right, later.
And there he is, Steve the Maniac, longtime friend, longtime Devils fan. And he's kind of fed up. He's one of the people I talk to the most about the Devils nonstop throughout the day, texting back and forth, articles and things. And we're both just tired, man. We're both just tired of the future is bright, looking down the road and hearing the nonsense. We want win now pieces. And I don't think that's an unfair, desire at this point. The team franchise record in 22-23, franchise record, 112 points, beat the Rangers. And this year, yes, we were injury-riddled and a lot of bad luck and stupid shit happened. We missed the playoffs, but, it did show the glaring holes of the roster construction, and they need to be fixed. And they need to be fixed through free agency and or trades this summer because next season is a big one, following up on the disaster that was this 23-24 season. Completely unacceptable, but the New Jersey Devils are locked in for the moment with the number 10 pick overall in the first round of the NHL draft. Let me know what you guys think about the pick. Let me know what you think about anything me and Steve the Maniac talked about, any free agency stuff, anything hockey, Devils. Throw it all out there in the comments. and I will be back soon enough. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.